name is Marina Sorensen, and today we are here to speak with Slim Stevens, who had agreed to come and talk to us about his songs. Welcome, Slim.
Thank you, thank you.
It's my utter delight. He has agreed to tell us the secret of happiness. And believe it or not, he got me to come here and sit down with him, and I don't know what is that. Anyway, I have picked 4 songs from 74 songs of Slim's, which are related to motherhood, correct? And I've written down some questions that I am afraid that I'll forget to ask you. So, Slim, first of all, have you been reluctant in the past to talk about your songs, and why are you here today?
How many questions you got there?
A lot.
Am I allowed to take any peeking?
No.
Okay. My dad used to tell the story of the painter who gave an exhibition of his paintings. And a man from the newspaper, wasn't wearing the same colored dress, but came to the exhibition and was staring at one of the paintings. And he called the painter over and said, "What were you trying to say in this painting?" And the painter said, "If I could have said it, I wouldn't have painted it." So that's sort of one of my answers. The other one that comes to mind is I was very lucky to talk to my high school girlfriend recently, and as you can probably tell from the color of my hair, that wasn't within this decade. And I highly recommend, if you can find your old high school boyfriend or girlfriend, to try to talk to them. So in the course of our conversation, we had an imaginary conversation with God. Don't ask me how we got there. And God asked us each 3 questions, saying, if you want 3 things, what would you want? And I wish I still had my 3, because one of the ones I would ask for is, what were her 3 things? Because I can't remember any of them. My apologies if you're watching. But I do remember mine. And the 3 things I asked God were, I think in this order. I want my legs forever. And so far so good. And the second thing was, I want to come from a happy clan, or be part of a happy clan. And on that, I'm satisfied so far. And the third was, to my surprise, that I wanted to tell my story. So, in a sense, that's led me to use my internal camp counselor to tell my story and bring it out. And that's what I've tried to do. You heard of the old Peterson couple in Vermont, right? You did, good. Well, one day the old Petersons, they were 92 years old, stumbled into, well, I should say, what do old people do? Staggered into Attorney Thompson's office. And Attorney Thompson said, "Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Peterson, what brings you here today?" "Mr. Thompson, we want a divorce." "A divorce? Mr. and Mrs. Peterson, you've been married 63 years. You want a divorce now?" "We wanted to wait until the children were dead." So, I know you've got all those questions. I know you're very, what's the word I'm looking for? Astute. So you can probably figure out, since you've harassed me, since you've, what do you do with a horse? Haloed me. Lassoed me. Since you've lassoed me into talking about songs which you allege have to do with motherhood, my mom is gone. So you can draw maybe some connections there.
All right. Are you planning to tell us the secret of happiness, or are you waiting until all the audience is dead there?
Oh, very good, very good. All right. Am I
In a
gonna
minute.
Okay, all right.
In a minute, we will listen to the first song, which is The Gift, and look at some pictures. But before that, please tell me something about the time that you're growing up. Was your childhood like?
My childhood. What was my childhood like?
Yes.
Well, my family was very close. Very, very close. Close to being crazy. It was not the easiest family that one would ever grow up in, but they say that a normal childhood is one that no one has ever seen. So you can think about that. But my mom, you're talking about my mom, was a goddess, absolute goddess. A goddess in a very, very, very bad mood. Very bad mood, goddess. But that's the way she was. And she was a bash and lavish. Bash, you know? Lavish. So she could bash and she could lavish. And she wasn't averse to, well, I should say this, that my parents were, let's just say they always didn't see eye to eye. And I remember once my dad saying, "Betty, we disagree about everything." And she said, "We do not." So that's my best answer I can give.
Okay, let's listen to the first song and see some pictures. We are going to play the first verse of the album version and then cut to the live version, and we'll come back to our conversation.
And where do we see that up here?
Yes.
Okay.
As I left, you said you had a gift for me, and I said I have one for you. Then you pointed at a star and wept bitterly, while I pointed back at you. Yes, there's someone back there I'll miss, far beyond these skies. At least I learned to cross great emptiness, sailing through the tears in your eyes. As I left, you said you had a gift for me, and I said I have one too. Then you pointed at a star and wept bitterly, while I pointed back at you. Yes, there's someone back there I'll miss, far beyond these skies. At least I learned to cross great emptiness, sailing through the tears in your eyes. the reason for that boat ride. I guess I'll never know, but you got me to the other side when there was no place left to go. Yes, there's someone back there I'll miss, far beyond these skies. At least I learned to cross great emptiness, sailing through the tears in your eyes.
Okay, who is the bride on that video?
Ah, the bride in the video. That was interesting to me. The contrast that was made in that film of the song, and it was the first song that I ever wrote with my mother in mind. And there was a young, hopeful, excited woman who was with her bridesmaids, obviously having her bridesmaid party, and I was happy it was put in the film like that, because to me it was a good contrast between the before and after.
So this was the first song that you wrote about your mom?
Yes.
All right. And how was the boat ride?
Oh, the boat ride. When I was 4, my mother and father had a big argument out in Washington State. My mother refused to go back to England. I was born in England from American parents, and she refused to go back with her husband. And I can understand now, decades later, how strong the maternal homing instinct is. And so I know my mother was there with her father back where she grew up, and she didn't want to go back to England. She wanted to raise her kids as Americans. And so there was a big fight that I was aware of, big disagreement. And my grandfather had his summer house on Whidbey Island, and you had to take a rowboat from the ferry landing. You couldn't, there was no car because the houses were just on the shore, but so the easiest way, rather than lug the suitcases, was to take a rowboat. So we were in a rowboat taking my father to the ferry landing where he was going to catch a ferry and go back to England. As a 4-year-old, I wasn't even sure, or nobody knew if he was coming back, or but I could sense the danger, and that's why I think in that song it says the reason for that boat ride. I guess I'll never know, but you got me to the other side. My mother said, if it turns over, just grab the boat. She was a water person, and we were in our life jackets, but it was choppy water on Whidbey Island. So in my mind, the storm, whether it came or not, was the storm of my parents' anger as well as the real storm.
Okay.
So that was my attempt to evoke that.
Mm-hmm. Is your mom was a teacher?
Yes, my mother was a teacher. She also wrote a novel and a book of poetry, and she was a peace activist. One of the things she did was she went to Hiroshima in Japan, where the atom bomb had been dropped, and tried to unite with the people there who had been affected by it, and also who understood the implications of it. And being a teacher, she had a good sense of humor, luckily. She could just laugh and laugh and laugh, which was fortunate for me. I remember one time I came home from school with a bad report card. So I handed it to her, and she's looking at it and studying it. And I said, "What do you think it is, Mom? Heredity or environment?" So she got the joke, which is lucky. She was also very, very frugal. She saved everything. You'd go to her fridge and you could find everything. But she would tie her rubber bands together. She was so frugal. that when she wasn't looking at something, she would take her glasses off. And she was so frugal that frequently the cupboards were bare in the house. Just nothing in the cupboards. The cupboards were so bare that my dad used to go to orgies just to eat the grapes. That's what he said. So it was not easy growing up with her. I personally, it was, of course, in a lot of ways easy growing up with her. She was a great teacher. And she actually, at the age of like 8th grade, I was helping her grade papers. So I was like grading English papers of 7th graders and doing a very good job of it, I must say. But I did it. And she encouraged me all sides of my personality when she was in the lavish mode. She endorsed the artistic side of a person, even though she was in a sense a workaholic. I read with another family member a book called Toxic Parents. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
All right, well, one of the things the Toxic Parents book says is try to identify and write down your unwritten family rules. Everybody has them. And the first one that came to our mind was work all the time. And a simple day's work is not enough. So that's a rough way to be if you have that voice in you telling you, I gotta work, I gotta keep working, I gotta be working all the time. I can't, and a single day's work is not enough. That's a rough way to be. So that maybe was the bashing of herself that she did with that, giving that message. But maybe this is the lavish side. She also, though, believed in artistic things. I mean, she wrote her novels, she wrote her poetry, and I think she was tickled, I think, that I was so inclined musically. You know, I was a boy soprano. I was a boy soprano in church. Miss Johan gave me the boy soprano part in 7th grade, in the 7th grade junior high, that's what we used to call middle school, junior high concert.
Wow.
And she gave it to me 5 weeks. She announced it 5 weeks before. Do you know how dangerous that is?
Very.
If you give a boy soprano who's in 7th grade, listen to me. If you give a boy soprano in 7th grade a solo 5 weeks in advance,
It's a hard work.
yeah, well, his voice can change. Because voices change right about then. I wish I had the old solo. Also, I think I got from her poetry that she would try to solve mental problems with her poems. All of her poems are dealing with an issue. And as I look back at what I've done, I don't know, I should every song, yeah, I get them, obviously, but it deals with an issue, a problem. So I know she was proud of me in that sense too, even though it broke a family rule. I am sorry she didn't live long enough to see me win the Tortured Artist of the Year award, because I think she would have really enjoyed that. And she would have been very pleased, I think, to learn that I just signed a 5-record deal with Sony Music. Just signed it. Still have to get them to sign it, but
Well, congratulations anyway.
Skirka, thank you very much. You know, talking about it, you get me going here. It's funny. She was very committed to women's liberation. And she used to say that women's liberation, I don't know what's the name for women's liberation now? Something different? Anyway, my mother used to say that women's liberation is based on the outrageous principle that females are humans too. You know, and that was to say it like that is so perfect in the sense that I know from having been a boy once that boys, thank God I had a sister, that helped a little bit, but boys, and I think girls are the same way, it's sort of like a foreign species over there, you know, that they have things that interest us. We used to say we had a song at Homestead Unitarian Camp, I'll have to put that in my repertoire, but it went, I respect you, and I really dig your mind. Which is another way of saying, oh, you have one? Because it's hard for a boy, I think, to figure out that that person over there is a person. I just think it's a hard issue. So I think that helped me with my, I think it helped me early on to view people of that very strange species as people too. And it's funny, one day I was talking about the fact that women's liberation is based on the outrageous principle that females are humans too. And I was asked to prepare the Emergency Girlfriends Translation Kit. Is that on your questions? You didn't know I wrote that, did you?
No.
Ask me if I just happen to have it today.
Do you?
Just so happens, since I knew you were going to be asking me about this foreign species. Here it is. Write this down. You might need it if you're listening. Fine. Okay, so when the girlfriend says fine, you know what that means?
She's upset.
Very good. Fine means not fine. I'm right. You need to shut up right now. Okay? Fine. Nothing. Do you know what nothing means?
She's mad at you.
Yeah. Nothing. This means something. And something important, and you better figure it out fast. Go ahead. Do you know what go ahead means?
It's danger.
Go ahead means don't go ahead. Whatever it is, when you hear, excuse me, whatever it is, when you hear go ahead, that means don't do it. 2 more.
Let's hear it.
Whatever. Do you know what that means? If you hear whatever, do you know what that means?
I might know.
Yeah, okay. This means screw you, you are in terrible danger, run or fall on the floor and apologize. So if you, then last but not least, that's okay. Do you know what that means? That's okay?
That's a problem.
Yeah, this means it's absolutely not okay. She's thinking long and hard about how to torture you to get even. So just happen to have this.
Okay, let's watch a video that is called "Is This the Japanese Painting?" We will do the same. We will listen to the album version, and then we'll do the live version, and then we'll come back to our conversation.
Okay, up here again?
Yes.
Is this a Japanese painting? You, me, and the sky. Is this a Japanese painting? You, me, and the sky. I can't make God keep waiting, but I'll try. Chained down on this schooner, pushed by a hostile wind toward the Civil War prison we didn't win. Do you think they have a piano? I've got to write you a song. Should I ask for pen and paper? It won't take long. Can you come up with one last poem? Something I can use to help me in the morning if I without you. Name the one who betrayed me. Anger lost in a lie. Who didn't have to hate me, but who tried. These soldiers all around us, just children still at play. Do they see this last goodbye here, your last day? And you take this Japanese painting, you, me and the sea, so you'll have something in the morning without me. Look who died in the night. One more blanket for the boys. Now move that weeping prisoner. He's making too much noise.
Okay, is this a song was written while your mom was alive?
Yeah, I don't know how it happened. Maybe it was that Happy Clan conversation I had with my high school girlfriend. But I ended up on a cruise ship in the Caribbean with lots of people in my family and my mom. 90 years old. And this cruise ship had a bridge that you could go, you took the elevator up to, and she could walk, I would help her walk up the stairs. And on the bridge was just like this little circle where two people could sit, and we're up on top of this bridge, and all you can see is the ocean, the smooth ocean. And that's when I said, is this a Japanese painting, you, me, and the sea? You know, just here we are. She loved Japanese art, loved it. She loved the simplicity, and she loved the ikebana, which is, what's that, little trees?
No,
No, I don't-
ikebana.
There's ikebana, and then there's like the little trees, and haikus, she wrote haikus, some of her poems are haikus. So I was asking her, is this a Japanese poem, Japanese painting? And there it was, you know, just seeing my own mother near the end, and that's when I asked all the questions that are in the song. It's funny that that cruise ship had a stage downstairs, which is hardly ever being used, I guess, for shows, but they never had any shows that I noticed while I was there. And it had a white piano on the stage, and nobody else used it. So whenever I had a free moment, I would go down, and I had this grand piano, and there I was with my mother trying to evoke what I was going through.
Did she ever write her last poem?
Oh, because in the song it says,
Yes.
yeah, she did write her last poem. I have it.
You do?
Yeah,
Can we hear it?
yeah. A storm in Piper's Canyon. There is a wind tonight, high in the trees, and it increases. Any who has known a storm in giant forest tops like these may guess my terror. I am here alone. This strange wind rends the quiet I have won, so often walking in the foothills here. I cannot find the paths. Where can I run? It isn't safe to move. I wait in fear. A heavy branch comes crashing to the ground. For years no spring has reached this barren bough. What if I die here, only to be found long after daylight? It is raining now. Oh, rain and rustling needle points of fur, hear one tonight who wanders.
Beautiful.
Weep for her.
Beautiful. Let me ask you this. Was the civil war that you and her never win?
Ah, and the song. Yeah. The Civil War that we didn't win was to be part of a happy clan. We both tried, I think, and had some success.
Okay. Tell me this. How did you got the name Slim? Is this your given name?
How did I get the name Slim?
Yes.
Boy, what, you got some. Well, my given name was Chubby. You know what chubby means?
Yeah. Chubby.
Yeah.
To be
Well,
fat.
you said fat?
That is, it's emphasizing.
Well, my mother's name for what I was Husky. Have you ever heard that one?
Yes, I
So
know.
when you go to the store for fat boys, it would be Husky. That was the size you would get. I was big boned. My mom used to drive me to J.C. Penney's to buy black clothes. See, look, black, black, black. This is. Do you?
Almost black.
Yeah. Do you think this? Do you think these shoes make me look fat?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she would drive me to J.C. Penney's and I'd buy black clothes. Now, the secret of wearing black clothes, you know what the secret is? It makes you invisible. So when you ever have, look, you can see at night. You see, if you look at something black, it's in. I think that's why. I mean, do you get it? In other words, wait a second. You don't want to look so large, so you wear black. Well, black's the color, so it must have been because it made you invisible. So I remember that Dr. Gonda's office was on the J.C. Penney's, on the way to J.C. Penney's. J.C. Penney's was like a dime store or a clothing store.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Gonda was one of the people that saved me, I think. Do you have people that saved you, you think? You're not sure? Because in 4th grade, I started having what you would call anger issues. So I think, looking back, I was acting out the anger probably from the bash part of the bash and lavish, although I'm not sure. I can only remember being beaten by my mother listen to me, I can't even say it now. Beaten by my mother twice. I remember being spanked by my father once, and it was a very loving thing. He said, you and Ricky Valsberg, sorry Ricky, shouldn't have mentioned it, but hopefully the statute of limitations is run. We were down bothering girls, I guess trying to figure out if they were humans too, at the train station, and a man stopped us. I saw what you were doing. Give me your name and phone number. So, smart kids, right? We gave him our name and phone number. We could have given him anything, right? You go home, you tell your parents that I'm an off-duty cop. You tell your parents what you did. I'm going to call them tonight. Jeez, so I'm shaking, walking down. We're going home. We're just walking in silence, and after a while, Ricky goes, "You're not going to, are you?" I said, "Not going to what?" "You're not going to tell him." I said, "Are you kidding? I'm going to tell him?" And Ricky says, Nah. He's not going to call. Don't tell him. So I thought, okay, Ricky's a smart kid. So I go home. I don't tell them. Ricky goes home and tells them, all right? So my father says, I'm punishing you and spanking you as much for not telling as what you did. So he said, sit down, lie over me. Okay. Bam. Bam. It was almost like, bam. Is that child abuse? Some people write. Anyway, raging beating, especially raging beating of a smaller person, is child abuse. It makes the child internalize harm on themselves. I know that. I can feel it. I'm aware of it. Looking back, I can only remember twice that my mother ever beat me. But looking back, I can see that was why. And I guess the lavish part was taking me to Dr. Gonda, driving me. So that was very symbolic, trying to help me be a better person or deal with these issues. You know, somebody at the child guidance at the the school probably suggested it, and so that was a good idea. I think that, well, it's funny. I know why I was beaten. I don't know if it was the first or second time. I think it was the second time. The first time, all I remember is being in the playroom and having this big person who I knew very well who it was, hitting me with like a ruler, but the hard rulers, not the bending ruler, but a hard one. So stinging. So there it was. But I do remember it was in the room where my mother, she was a member of the North Shore Child Guidance Society. Now, I never went to any of their meetings, but the idea was, how can we help our children? And to me, it was always, it's thinking back to that one of the first time that I can remember. And I was right next to the shelf where that was, and I used to look at the shelf where those books were. And to me, looking back, it was so, is ironic the word, that I would be right under the book called Child Guidance. So, I mean, a lot of human beings think that is child guidance.
Sure.
A lot of human beings think that is child guidance. The second time, we were poor. I told you we were frugal, right? We were so frugal that my mom, when she had to get a stove, she got a good deal on a stove. Most stoves are designed to go up against a wall, but she had to put it in the middle of the room. So we had a wall in the middle. We had a stove in the middle of the room. So there's no back on the stove. So she gets a piece of plywood, covers it with what we used to call contact paper, and made it nice. First grade Chubby Stevens one day took a pen, in the top left of that board up here, I know right where I did, right in the top left, wrote, "I love Debbie." I did love Debbie. Debbie was a first grader with braids, you know, on two sides. So that made her very easy to control. You just, you know, if I wanted her to come over and we would wrestle. I found a picture. It's the illustration of the Tangerine Valley, which, and Debbie is in that song. I love Debbie. I think, looking back, that her bash part, my mother's bash part, made me seek closeness from other people. So I think that I was looking for alliances, and Debbie was an alliance. You know, I look at some kids are like, I was the kind of kid that, Mommy, can Debbie, I would harass her, can Debbie come over to play? Can I go to Debbie's? I needed another friend. I wanted somebody to complete me. Looking back, maybe if there hadn't been the bash part, I would have been more self-contained. I don't know. But that might have been part of it. So that might have been a reaction. So my mother came home from school, teaching. I used to sit with Reggie the collie, waiting for my mom's car to come up the driveway. My mom came home. She saw that that I had ruined this thing in the back of her. It took me 25 years to figure out it wasn't just what I did, probably. It was also what I said. Because it's sometimes I've heard it's hard for a mother of a son when the son all of a sudden loves somebody else.
To accept that fact.
To accept that fact. So in looking back, I think I know why I got bashed the second time. It was for loving Debbie Christensen. And I still love her, as you can see in that song.
Okay, let's watch now the One Blue Leather Shoe, and then we will come back to our conversation.
Up here.
The salt air now tastes bitter, and I know what that means. The fog will now get thicker. What do you see? You said God had good ideas. Applesauce, aspirin, and ink. I know you mentioned some others. I've got to think. The salt air now tastes bitter, and I know what that means. The fog will now get thicker. What do you see? You said God had good ideas. Applesauce, aspirin, and ink. I know you mentioned some others. I've got to think. Each time you look back, you're farther. You're slipping out to sea. The foghorn just got louder. Or is that me? At least I have your sweater and one blue leather shoe, a suitcase full of letters I sent to you. You said God had good ideas, pancakes, champagne, and gloves. I just remember two others, morphine and love. You left something by my shirt, a small brown figurine, a baby sandpiper bird? Or is that me?
Slim, tell me please, who is the man in the video behind you all the time?
Oh, you mean the wandering? Yeah, isn't that something? The guy, to me, that's just so perfect when I see him wandering, lumbering behind. You know, she's gone now. She's gone.
Is your mom gone by now, right?
Yeah, she's gone. And I think that's probably universal. That was me. You know, the song says, what does the song say? Three things. What does it say? You said, God. I can't even remember. You know, it's amazing. A lot of songwriters this way. You can't think of your words as words. You can only sort of sing them. But here I was, Mom. What are the other things I have to think? Just like I'm trying to think now. I have to think. You know, what did you say? Applesauce, aspirin, and ink. You know, you said God had good ideas. Applesauce, aspirin, and ink. I know you mentioned some others. I've got to think. In other words, whoa, we're in trouble here. Everybody, I think, who realizes their parent is dying has this little button going off saying, oh my gosh, we're in trouble here. And to me, the fact that that film has that man, young man, walking so slowly behind me as I'm singing that, it's sort of like, whoa, thank you, thank you, thank you. I agree. And then, of course, at the end, he remembers. I just thought of, I know you said God had good ideas. Pancakes, champagne, and gloves. So, Mommy, these are the things you taught me are good ideas that we need. Champagne, what did I say? Pancakes and gloves. I just thought of two others. Morphine. You know, morphine's a good idea. You know, when the parent is dying, morphine's that's another good idea. And love. So what did the painter tell the guy in the newspaper? You know, if I could have said it, I would have painted it.
What is the salt air?
Oh, the salt air now tastes bitter. The salt air actually did taste bitter. There was this lovely woman from the hospice. I mean, here I was blessed. My mother's dying at 95, okay? So that's a blessing, I guess. And this lovely woman from the hospice, she says, oh, look at her. She looks just like my mother looked. This hospice lady had lost her mother too. It was such a sweet thing to say. And when I kissed my mother, sort of faded slowly, 7 days. And at the end, she wasn't recognizing me. She was squeezing my hand sort of 4 days in, 5 days in maybe. But I'd kiss her forehead, and I'd taste my lips. And I said something to the hospice lady. I said, boy, it was just like a very... And she said, yes, that's what the body, when the body shuts down, it puts out. So I thought, oh my God, what is more specific than the salt air now tastes bitter? And I know what that means. The fog will now get thicker. What can you see?
And now coming back of your shows, so speak to.
What'd you say? I'm sorry, you got me going on the other one. What?
And now you're coming back out of your shell.
Oh, coming out of my shell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am coming out of my shell in the sense of talking about these things.
Okay, let's look at the Tangerine Valley, and we will come back.
Some are born orphans. It took forever for me. But here now, the night has come. I learned how to fight, but not how to grieve. Can you teach my mother's poor son? She saved every crumb, every last piece of cord, and longed for those whom she loved in vain. Made enemies with every 15th word, who mocked me for feeling her pain. How'd you learn this? In your trembling house, where you had to fear for your life. To catch my tears in your tangerine blouse, and help me to say goodbye. You say it took decades to be able to leave. I say it took decades to stay. You say you forgot so you could believe. Forgive, don't forget, I say. Like the first grade friend that I so craved, whose amber braids I would hold. Only a tomboy could be this brave to knock at the attic of my soul. Come and sit by my side, now you found me. Do not hasten to bid me adieu, but remember the Tangerine Valley and the orphan who found you too.
So, am I right? This is the last song?
Yeah, this is the last song. It's, hitting me, as I was talking before, I guess, made me yearn for other people, I yearned for Debbie Christensen or whatever. In a sense, she was leaving me, my mother was leaving me by bashing me in a way. And 50 years later, she left me again, and that made me yearn for other people in a way, when I was in first grade, I got a little record player, and it was Roy Rogers singing Red River Valley. And the second verse of Red River Valley, you know what it is?
No.
You better be careful, you might blush. Come and sit by my side if you love me. Do not hasten to bid me adieu. But remember the Red River Valley and the cowboy who loved you so true. So I had the whole date planned. My record player was here. I put my chair here. Debbie was going to sit there. I put another empty chair right here. I had her sit. I did this. Sat her down, got the record, put the needle. We had needles on records. Put it down right at that spot. We sat down, and Roy Rogers sang, "Come and sit by my side if you love me." And little Debbie, first grader with her, she was already like, oh, I'm thinking about the record player. Gosh knows what was in that little mind. But me, I was heartbroken because she didn't figure out that she's supposed to stand up and walk over and sit next to me.
Oh,
So that was the Red River Valley, and 50 years later, the valley was tangerine colored.
nice. You start playing folk songs. What is behind that?
The folk songs of my past, I went to a Unitarian church and camp too, church and camp, and we would sing the folk songs that I've been singing recently. It means so much to me, and I didn't realize they meant that much to me, but I realized they're what I rode into town. As a child, I was lucky enough to have those songs, like the Red River Valley, which went way back. And only now, years and years later, do I realize how valuable those were. And that's why I'm going back. The water is wide, I can't cross over. It's just so pretty. And so symbolic and evocative. And I rode those into town. When I got to town, it was Bob Dylan that I learned in town. The pain, Bob Dylan saved my life in the sense that he gave me a structure to deal with my emotional, artistic side, then mostly as a consumer, not as a performer in any way, but gave me permission. He says in one of his songs, I can't speak the sounds that show no pain. So it's funny, for some reason Eminem always comes to my mind. I don't know anything about the discography of Eminem. The only thing I know about him is that I sat down a few months ago and listened to his very first album. And in a sense, I think Bob Dylan and Eminem occupy that tortured artist. They were able to say what they felt with, anyway, it's funny it comes to mind because you sort of think that torch being passed, and I don't know, I'm very anxious to listen to some of his other stuff because I know nothing about him. I was a one what do they say, one-trick pony. You know, Bob Dylan was, you know, I knew that there were other artists out there like Buffalo Springfield or Crosby, Stills and Nash, and you know, I loved Judy Collins. I just read her book, but from a distance, I didn't know anything about her. I had all I needed. I didn't need anything else. I had Bob Dylan. He was telling me what he was telling me, and that's why, you know, I wrote so many songs to Bob Dylan, and in response to Bob Dylan. And he had that. Did you just ask me if I happen to have one of his lyrics?
You do?
Because I do. I knew you were going to be asking, and I know we're almost through, so. Been so long since a strange woman slept in my bed. Look how sweet she sleeps, how free must be her dreams. In another lifetime she must have owned the world or been faithfully wed to some righteous king who wrote psalms beside moonlit streams. I think I'll go out and go for a walk. Not much happening here, nothing ever does. Besides, if she wakes up now, she'll just want me to talk. I got nothing to say, especially about whatever it was. Outside of two men on the railroad tracks, there's nobody in sight. They're waiting for spring to come, smoking down the tracks. The world could come to an end tonight, but that's all right. She'll still be there sleeping when I get back. Noontime, I'm still pushing myself along the road, the darkest part, into the narrow lanes. I can't stumble or stay put. Someone else is speaking with my mouth, but I'm listening only to my heart. I've made shoes for everyone, even you, but I still go barefoot. I didn't know he wrote this. I found this song 25 years after, you know, I love Bob Dylan. And that it's not an accident that I only recorded 22 of his songs on my website, because some of them, I didn't know he wrote this song called I and I, and it's not very well known. I found it just by mistake. It's sort of like finding a letter from your college girlfriend that you never knew was, it's like you find it 30 years later. That was true with my father's letter, with more than one of them. Oh my gosh. I mean, just how unhappy he is, how he's so distant. You know, here's this woman, she spent the night in his bed, but he's completely distant from her. He can't talk to her. He's pressured. He doesn't know what to do. He goes out for a walk. He realizes how crazy it is, how and the pressure, and there's no point. And you know, and then he's in the middle of the daytime. He's in the darkest part. He can't stumble or stay put. He's got to move. He's got to do it. He can't figure it out, you know. And here he is making shoes for everyone, you know. But someone else is speaking with his mouth. So it's like, wow, this is sincere.
Okay, I was very patient with you, but
You were patient with me.
yes, but would you please share with us your secret of happiness?
Oh, you want the secret of happiness?
Yes.
Well, I have that with me too. I was thinking of making that the title of my. Did you know I just signed a deal with the Random House to write my unauthorized autobiography?
Oh wow.
You didn't know that?
No. I am finding so many new things about you.
Well, good. I guess you're asking, must be asking the right questions. Well, so one of the titles was going to be, maybe, that I'm working title was The Secret of Happiness. I do know The Secret of Happiness.
Please share with us.
Well, I will. But I also wanted to tell you about the other working titles that I thought of for my autobiography.
Mm-hmm.
All right, these are working titles for my unauthorized autobiography. Devout Agnostic. You can vote on these if you want, but if I knew what I was doing, I'd be doing it right now. I think that despite the high cost of living, it remains popular.
Not bad.
The happy leave no clues. So it's only the sad people. You know, in other words, if Bob Dylan wasn't unhappy, he might not have written that song, and I wouldn't have gotten the clue. I don't know. I guess I may be crazy, but I'm not stupid. Life sucks, then they send you to the home. I saw that on a T-shirt. Great adventures happen to those who can tell them. All right, so you want the secret of happiness?
Yes.
All right, you ready?
Ready.
The secret of happiness is taking turns talking.
Okay.
And I'll show you this if you. Oh, I was going to say you have to promise to do it with me if I tell you the secret of happiness.
Uh-oh.
I've been doing most of the talking here. Okay. Taking turns talking. I have a watch here. You take turns talking. I talk. Usually it's for 3 minutes. They call it 3 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, for this sample, especially since you're a beginner, we'll do it for 1 and 1. All right.
All right.
I have my watch here, which has a timer on it. It's very important to have the timer because when the timer goes off, your time is up. And that means the other person isn't telling you to stop talking. You're stopping talking all by yourself. The only other guidance is to sort of say whatever you're thinking, not to respond to what the other said. So it's as simple as this saying, would you do a 3 on 3 with me? You say yes. I say, can I go first?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to push for 1 minute. And it's now my time, so you're not supposed to talk. But I have somebody actively listening to me, which is you, and I just close my eyes or whatever, and I say whatever comes up. So I'm going to do that. One of the things that's occurred to me is I spend my time trying to get somebody else to do something, or I spend my time trying to get myself to do something. So it's sort of like 2 categories of my life. And I guess it's a sign of maturity. Maybe my mother, the English teacher, would be proud of me that I'm spending so much of my time trying to get myself to play something like that water is wide, I can't cross over. I've been performing that. I can't play it. I can do it at home with a bass that plays with a thumb. I can't do it. Well, yes, I can. Sometimes I do it. But in other words, that's trying to get myself to do something. Whereas I think I spent most of my youth trying to get other people to try to do something. So, that was my, hear that beep?
Yes.
Beep, beep, beep. Okay, you're on. 1 minute.
So you want me to talk about anything or whatever bothers me, correct? Well, I don't know what to say because this is my first time. I don't know how this should go and what approach I should take, but what I think people are so tired of everything what's going on right now in the world. They are so tired of lies that they see on the TV, what they hear on the internet. And I think the government that we have right now is controlling everyone by news, especially by news, and they feeding people the news that they want to people to absorb, and not the real reality that we have going on. If you look on internet, the only news that you see it everywhere is about those TV stars who have a really unpleasant life, and they talk about their issues.
Beep, beep. Okay. So, that's good. That was the secret of happiness. You know, a lot of my friends told me that I have issues. So I went to the doctor and he said, well, how's your self-esteem? I said, well, my self-esteem is pretty good. And he said, well, why settle for good self-esteem? With the right medication, you can have great self-esteem. So I said, Doc, I have one other problem, one other issue. He says, what's that? I said, Doc, I think I'm a dog. He said, you think you're a dog? How long have you felt this way? I said, Doc, ever since I was a puppy.
Woof, woof.
You're going to say goodbye to the people now?
Well, thank you so much for watching us. Thank you for being here, Mr. Slim Stevens. Thank you for sharing with us your story. And we will hear from you as soon again, I hope.
Thank you. Some are born orphans. It took forever for me.